Mr. Gulan, welcome to my office.
Oh,
And
please.
welcome welcome back from the infernal circles of hell, Mr. Gulan.
Why are
I
you
have here for you a Sazerac.
why are you Jeff Goldblum summoning like the Grammarium Verum spirits?
I am King Solomon. I don't know who.
By
Now,
the cock Syriac and Lucifer and Ashtaroth and Beelzebub,
now,
I
my dear,
conjure
bring
thee.
me that ebony wand. Mr. Gulan, bring that over with a little nail. I'm gonna show you a secret of secrets, Mr. Gulan.
I'm screaming. I like how Austin's JD Vance and then you're Jeff Goldblum.
What is the world come to? It's a fucking, the chair of Saint Peter is vacant.
That's true.
We get to have all the fun for the next like however many fucking days.
This is crazy advertising for Conclave. This is like our
Yeah,
ultimate
literally.
reality game.
And what the gaggy part is, I'm like, I didn't even pay attention to them. I don't think anyone did when it came out. It came out like a year or 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And now, or has it already come out? Yeah, it's already came
Yeah,
out, right?
it
I don't
came out,
even
yeah.
know. I don't even know. But all I know is now it's relevant.
Listen, I like the movie. I enjoyed it. Crazy advertising for sure. It was nice to see like it's basically RuPaul's Drag Race for popes.
Yeah.
The Cardinals, yeah. They're very cunty. It's great.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Basilica Cardinals. I hope you're all feeling comfortable. You pray a rosary. You wanna here, take mine.
No, stop. I really don't like that. Be not alarmed at the frightful howls which you may hear. It's finger, salt, and beating your ass senseless key. Beth Boldblum key. Yeah. There's something there. You've been doing that voice for a while though. It's actually starting to scare me.
It's a little powerful. It's one of those jokes that like possesses you, it takes on a spirit all its own.
Yes, I
So
agree.
I'm just walking through the day to day being like, welcome back, listener. We're here to talk about vengeance today.
Yeah.
You want to sit down and we'll pick your enemies and we'll talk about your problems.
I've been doing the JD Vance voice that Austin's been doing because like I will roll up on Salt and Key and be like, did you remember to say thank you, Mr. Pope? Like
Immediately dies.
Oh my god, energy vampire shit. We'll get into it for a second. It's not the topic of the episode, but it's somehow very. I promise we picked it before that happened.
Just killed the Pope Vance.
Stop. In other timely news, remember to check us out at patreon.com/the frightful howls. We have a bonus episode every month curated by and for just our patrons, a Discord server. We have Salt's Fantastic Almanac, a monthly live occult book club where we discuss a text of your choosing, show notes for every episode, and more. But if that's not up your alley, you can also support us through giving us a like, rating, and review on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you may be listening to us. It helps us fight the demiurge of the algorithm and lets our likes and thoughts and prayers be lifted onto the conclave so they can select the new pope with expediency. I'm Orthodox, but I'm still rooting for them. I promise.
See that white smoke coming out of the chimney on the first round of voting, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, he is risen indeed.
I just hope he's hot.
Pardon me?
I just hope he's hot.
You hope he's hot? Listen, there's some DILF candidates on there.
What were you saying, Salt? Sorry.
I'm not gonna lie, right? So I'd never heard of Conclave before, okay? And Red, who's previously a guest on the show, sent me a meme that featured like the promotional poster of it. And I looked at it and I thought, he looks so serious. Is this a comedy? And I Googled it, really hoping, really hoping it would be something like Father Ted. And I was so disappointed when I found out
Oh,
it's
no.
like this really deep drama. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, that is a classic Red meme, though. We gotta get her back on. And speaking of which, remember to check out our services. Key offers personalized coaching in magic and mediumship, sorcery for hire, readings, custom talismans, oils, tools, even coaching in like Letterman now. That's like a new thing.
Mhm.
Don't you have a new like price point too?
I do, yeah. I just launched a new divination tier that is optimized for faster sessions, quick check-ins about things. This is like a 20 to 30 minute, hey, I have this problem, let's get right into it. Usually it's just, hey, here's what's going on. Here's a possible solution, a working that you can do, something that I can offer to take on as a sorcerer for hire or whatever it may be. So just want to make it easier, more accessible, and more streamlined for people to get readings or ask quick questions and check in about other things going on in their lives.
Amazing. And I know some people have been actually learning Letterman from you now, which is also fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by popular demand, I have opened up some of my old notebooks about Lenormand and have been walking some people through the system due to renewed interest. And it's been really fun and has been helping hone my skills as well as everyone else's. So if you are interested in talking about that system and seeing how I do it and diagnose the oracles from the readings you may have received, swing by.
Hell yeah. Amazing. I still offer the one and only thing that I do, which is Balkan Five readings. So hit me up if you'd like a reading. I do court readings. I do all kinds of readings, anything really that you'd like. And Salt's books are closed, but keep an eye out for his monthly astrological almanac on the Patreon. It is seriously worth its weight in gold. And lastly, hit us up on social media. I'm at Dragon Cunning. Salt is at SaltCNC, and Key is at barnowl.key. The B is barnowl on the Instagrams. And welcoming back, returning guest, a good friend of ours, Austin Fuller from Banix Bramble and the excellent, always recommended Southern Bramble podcast. Hello. Thank you for saying thank you. Did you remember to say thank you for having us on?
Thank you so much for having me here. I am little known, the third cock destroyer, known as Succubi.
Welcome back, Mr. Succubi.
Oh no.
Can I interest you in a promotion of what you have coming up? I already have some big things in the works.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, things have been crazy. I've been cooking up a lot of stuff over at banexbramble.com. I have a house line, which has been a long time coming. Quite a collection of oils of like 15 different oil formulas, 6 different self-igniting incense powders, cologne waters, and washes as well.
Austin, I'm so happy for you. Like, I've been watching you tease it on Instagram for a while, and obviously we've been chatting, but like seeing all the effort that you put into making a house line is no joke. Like, Key is also percolating something similar on his end, and like seeing the work that takes is tremendous. And like, just I've been super excited, and I'm so glad that it's so soon.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited for yours, Key. I am. It's really exciting. I forgot it's been so long since I've had to do. I did a pretty big line of the planetary perfumes when I first launched those years ago, and I'm like, damn, I forgot how how much work this is, especially for doing a really big one. So it's exciting that it's finally like almost ready to be put out into the world.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone, please do check out banexbramble.com. Check out all of Austin's work as well as the Southern Bramble podcast. Another beautiful friend of ours whose insights and wisdoms are worth their weight in gold, and we all swear by your perfumes and we swear by your work. So it's super exciting for it to be out there soon.
Thank you.
Well, you wanted to talk about, we were like workshopping, like, what do we have you back on for? And you were pretty quick with it. You were like, it's going to be vengeance and justice and protection. And we're like, damn, those are like the 3 hard hitters. Those are the trinities, if you will. of a lot of our work.
I
And
must have been in a pissed off mood that
but you
time.
wait, was it because you were sick and your like voice was gone?
Yeah, probably
You were like,
I
I
was
feel
like
silenced and
I
I'm spicy.
literally voice was completely gone. I'm like, wow, I need to speak, and I
I
guess
have no
I'm gonna
voice and I must scream.
literally, you know those dreams when you wake up and like you have no voice, and that was literally me, but it was in my waking life, and I was like, oh shit,
Mhm.
which is very annoying. You all know I like to talk.
Well, I'm excited to hear all about it because we have quite an itinerary to get through. And I was actually just chatting with Salt before we started about this because we were like, damn, there's so much we could say from how different our spirit courts are when they approach this topic. Like, what counts as justice? When is it best to seek revenge versus when is that detrimental? And obviously, some of these are moral questions, which on the basic level of sorcery, we tend to bracket more to speak on techniques and we leave the morality firmly in the user's hands, as it were. It's customer be aware. But on the other hand, I think it's important still to like mention on some level how different spirits treat these topics and how what they will consider to be adequate. So like, I think number one is if we want to talk about protection magic and when it's necessary, obviously there's political components to all of these, but we also want to talk about like what happens. This is all really presumptuous of like you've been attacked on some level, like something is happening, and that may not be like a singular enemy sorcerer or like one spirit that is pissed off and wants to hurt you. That could be a system. That could be a situation in which you are being oppressed or you're being trampled on. That could be many things, right? And so I think in discussing this, we're approaching this from the kind of our starting line is something happened where your agency is being thwarted, like not just neglected or suppressed in some way, but actively being thwarted. So what do you do really? Like what is the approach? And Austin, we know that you take a lot of geomancy clients on and have a lot of extensive experience in like navigating these issues. So I guess I'll start you off with what is your perspective on like when you identify these particular moments in people's lives and in your own, like how do you formulate strategies for approaching a moment in which your agency or the agency of one of your clients is being actively thwarted?
Hmm. It can be really I think you bring up a really good point about making sure that it, is it a single, the baddie sorcerer down the road, old Granny Demdike who you pissed off or whatever, or is it, systems that are coming down a pipeline. It's not like, I love America, and I think that we're in such a wonderful time to be here. It's just an amazing, fabulous, wonderful country that we have. So and it's not like it's ever done anything wrong before, ever. I think that it's actually, in my opinion at least, it can be a little easier to pinpoint a target where it's like, oh, this is coming from, Granny Demdike down the road or whatever. And I can see that clearly either in my divination or in a session where I'm like, getting hints from spirits very strongly that like, oh, this might be, work that is being done by somebody. And I think that can be maybe not necessarily easier in terms of a quick one and done. It can be that, but I think when it comes to systems of oppression, it's like making having this arsenal or a toolkit of defensive magic, offensive magic, but also the things that like set you up for success, you and your friends and your family, right? The people who you really care about, your actual community. It can't always be uh you know, Guland moves my hand, and as Guland moves it, I nail these nails into,
Mhm.
to this person. It can be that, but I think it has to also, um, can you grow? Can you cook? Can you love? Can you have a difficult conversation? Can you do all those things? So that's not always, at least for a professional, I think it can be a lot of, I don't want to say training. That sounds like my clients are dogs. That's not what I mean, but I think it can be opening up a dialogue of like,
Mhm.
how do we navigate this situation to where we can absolutely do magic about this, but here's also three other resources that I might have to um cool you off or to get you to like look into something a little bit more, to help you develop that sense of community, that sense of um, like having a network of people around you to actually help you overcome these obstacles, because it can't always be done alone, and it can't always be, it's not always just lighting a 7-day. Sometimes it can take multiple rounds of work, and while also supplementing, let's set you up success for a better job, so that you're not constantly worried about when you're going to eat next, or what your when your next paycheck is coming. You know what I mean? So all those things, I think, can factor into what we're discussing.
Totally. I think like a critical distinction for this episode, especially, in reference to our previous one about like what protection magic looks like, is defense is a very different thing than protection. Like defense is some shit has gone down. What do we do? And exactly as you identified, like the solution to it's like, okay, how do I this person's in front of me under attack in some way? How do I either defend them on their behalf or better enable them to defend themselves going forward? So I'm just really happy you highlighted like this doesn't always look like the light up the double action reversal candle and be like whatever came to you throw it back 10 times harder. This looks like let me give you some kind of like eloquence oil to better defend yourself in this argument and be able to stand up for what you believe in. Let me give you whatever tools you need to move forward. And if that based in divination ethos and whatever the spirits say is like, okay, yeah, we're gonna actually do something to this other person. It's how do we center it not necessarily being revenge for revenge's sake. It's like, and perpetuating that cycle of violence that can famously happen in like witch wars. But how do we put an end to this and make sure that the person in front of us is able to just move on and live a fruitful and holistically better life than when they first came to the table?
Yeah, that's such an important part of divination in general, because like it might be fun to maybe explore how all our different systems can do that, but like in Fevomancy or in Glera New Pastor, like you can even there's ways you can tell if the client is hiding something, or if they're not fully vulnerable or fully being present with all the factors in place. So it's like this person is like has done this bad thing to me, and it completely obscures that like, well, you cheated on them or something like that. Not that these things excuse each other, but more in the sense that there's additional factors in play, and that will come up usually in the first row of themes. It'll like note, or it'll come in like the middle column, depending on the style that you're reading. So you'll see pretty much immediately the state of the querent. Salt, I know that both in geomancy and in astrology, these things are absolutely very quickly diagnosed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say, yeah, I think that like looking to, at least for geomancy and some of the ways that I've been taught and have also inferred to, like checking the radicality in the first and also making like looking to the 11th, to see, what are the things that are hiding in there, at least in terms of geomancy, to like what is somebody obscuring something from you, and that can be, or even like when certain cards come up, when I pull like the first three for the particular way that I read, it can definitely show not everything is being come to light, especially when you have things like the 8 of Cups or something like that come up. There's like literal shrouding being given. So I think it can be really important to make sure, especially for clients, it's like how do we open that dialogue, especially if it's somebody who's like coming to your table first and they've never met you. I have people who know of me through my work, but I've never really engaged with them at all. And it's like building that trust of, hey, this is a not to be such a cliche, but it's like this is a safe space, and I really am not judging you or the things that you've run up against. And creating that dialogue between people, so there is that trustworthiness of like, you can tell me what's going on, and being honest about it too, and instead of having to start pulling other cards or rolling more dice off screen to be like, okay, let's let me find out the situation then, which isn't always practical, at least not in the work that I do. I'm like, I would rather just have a conversation about it.
That's one of the really I think important skills to be able to, first and foremost, read in the Oracle. And so, like, something to just look out for as a diviner that really comes with practice is to be able to hold space for hurt people to be reacting from a place of pain or discomfort or hyperbole. Like, we've all had the client who was like, I was wronged in this way, and is kind of like popping off or doing whatever. And part of that divination, part of that dialogue is to hold that. You make room for that. You allow them to talk it all out with you, get it out of the system, and then that's where you can come in and start giving that advice and move them through the reading back into kind of that place of constructive dialogue and being like, all this is good, but let's get to the heart of the issue. What actually happened? Let's go forward from there.
Totally. What is it in Lenormand for you?
For like a duplicitous
Yeah.
client, a lot of the time, so I read like primarily Lenormand as like crosses, such that there is, a central significator card for the matter at hand or the querent themselves. And then there will be, 4 pairs that I read where it's like, situation at hand, stuff in and out of the client's control, and then usually like an outcome or like an answer to the question. And then from there, you create the story that it shows you, and you tell them that, informed by spirits, and you can make recommendations for workings or advice or whatever from there. So when that first pairing comes up, that will show me the whole situation of like what has happened to this person, but also what is happening in this conversation right now. So if suddenly my spirits are like, whoa, and the pairing that comes up is like, oftentimes like clouds, moon can come up in this, stuff like that, with, or birds as well, for respectively being things are being hidden or blocked. Mountain can come up here as being like, stop doing this reading because you need to address something else first. Birds is like chatter. It's kind of just like, a little birdie told me
Oh no.
that you might have more to say about this matter. But kind of stuff like that, where there are these built-in kind of significators of being like, okay, something weird is going on here, especially if it comes up in conjunction with whatever some of the more anthropomorphic cards. So if my client is, if I'm using the significator of the client and they're more comfortable with like kind of like the feminine significator, I'll be like, and the masculine one for me shows up and there's like a big block between us. I'm like, okay, we need to actually like stop what's going on here. We need to figure out what the fuck is up, because something's off in this reading. Or, if it's masculine significator, the other one, the de facto, like the rider will come up, and I'll be like, okay, again, something is fucking off, because now I'm not able to access this story to actually look at it and tell you what's going on, because there's a rift, there's a block, there's some gap in the information that I have, and of course you can do further divinations, just be like, okay, get me around this person, but I would much rather be a dialogue, like you said, where I'm like, is this maybe the whole story? Like, is there some detail that you're leaving out, and kind of holding the space for them to be like, you can have fucked up big time. I just want to hear what the fuck up is so I can help you.
Right.
And I like that we're starting here, because before we get into like the juicy stuff, as it were, I think it's just so necessary to not even caveat, but like actually explore like what are some maybe like head cooling first steps, because you never want to go, if you do have to go into the offensive mode, and there is a time and place for that, absolutely. And some of it, again, like I said, we just have to like leave into the hands of the client, or leave into the hands of the listener to let them decide. But ultimately, like, cooler heads always prevail in better action, including in better attack. So if you come at it from a place not necessarily heated, but a place of strategy, I find that that also helps you zoom out a little bit and be like, well, you don't want to take actions you regret. You want to take actions you feel comfortable with and you've made your peace with. And so if there's room for regret based on inaccurate information, your own hyperbole, your own kind of activation, as it were, because of the difficulty that you're facing, then you want to at least process that to a certain degree before you head into the next step. Because obviously this is all simpler if you're just defending somebody and it's a much more clear-cut situation. But either way, I would say getting a reading from a reader or reading for yourself if possible. Not everyone always feels comfortable doing so in these kinds of environments where things are very activating, but especially if you're approaching somebody else, you want to be like, I just want to put everything on the table to see what am I missing, what I have to do, what should be done, and including like, do I just walk away and cleanse? And you mentioned, you don't want to necessarily pop out the double action reversal candle key. And like one thing that I was thinking of is how many times I've heard people who take on a lot of client work saying that it's actually very tricky this is a kind of a caution about reversals. It's a great technique, right? You send it back, literally, you return to sender. Fantastic work. If you're done right, like it affects the person who sent it to you. If it's like a direct magical attack, just as hard, if not hard, than what was going to be done to you. So it's a good, solid technique. And there's many ways to do it right across systems. But a little warning about that, and I've heard this story many times in different ways, iterate to me, which is sometimes the reversal is done just because on behalf of like a worker, just because the clients, it comes up with divination that they are actually being genuinely magically aggressive. Like this isn't as common as one thinks. If you're in the public eye, it will definitely happen, just even straight evil eye. But it's not like, you don't want to be the kind of person that like you stub your toe when you think, someone's cursing me or something like that. Like you want to be a bit more cogent about these kinds of things. But if it comes up that is somebody, let's say the egg cleanse reveals a face, or a court card, or like a particular face card shows up, or like a particular omen referring to like an actual individual is sending Malefica and their spirits are now fucking with your life, immediately reversing it can send it back to somebody who it turns out later on was actually just hired to do this. So this comes up in a few different cases where you hear people being like, yeah, like the person hired a worker to do this. The worker has no personal beef with you. This is just for money. And for, this is why you got to also be careful when you're taking on work that involves vengeance work or cursing work or Malefica or, left-handed work, is that you will be hired to do things and, you get your permission from your spirits. You get, you check out the situation with the divination, you decide it's worth doing, or you don't care and you take the money, depending on who you are. And then the worker has no reason to beef with you, but reversed onto them, then they're going to fight you specifically.
Exactly, yeah.
And I've heard so many of those stories where people were like, yeah, now I'm in a full-on witch war with a different person over a client that I'm trying to protect and they're trying to hurt. And we both kind of don't care about the person because it's in the sense that like they're not a personal friend. This is a business relationship. But now it's personal because now you're in a witch war and it's not even about the client anymore. And so it's really, this is why we start with divination, right? That's why discussion is centering around that, is like, do your homework, check every angle, send out your spy spirits. Salt, I was just thinking about the Chumashan episode that we did where you're talking about the rat immortals being really good spies. I think this is really what we're talking about, like going out, setting out the armies, scouting things out, getting all the information necessary before you make the move so that you're always on top at the very least in terms of information.
Yeah, I think as well, like in respect to like using reversals quickly as like kind of the first resort, is one of the biggest risks that I find in particular is when there's spirits involved, right? And it's not a person who's cursing you, but rather there's a malefic spirit. Maybe that spirit is an unjust creditor or a wronged creditor. Someone your family or ancestral line has offended, or maybe it's a wandering ghost who doesn't know any better. And, like I joke a lot about those spirits, but in reality, it's not necessarily the best thing to do to be turning around and just, a ghost is latching on, causing someone problems. It's not necessarily always the best thing to go and punish that spirit. It may be a better choice, especially in cases where it's, a spirit that is vulnerable, died horizontally, like accidental deaths. It may be better to address that, with the appropriate means. So I think that really, when we talk about divination, that also is a case for why it's so important, right? Is because if you don't know what you're doing, you can run into a situation where you make things worse, whether that's with practitioners, as you mentioned, Svinga, or where you run into spirits and start causing trouble with, potentially local spirits, their guardians, or someone else looking after them. It's definitely, as you're saying, like cool heads prevail. gathering
Mhm.
as much information as you can, understanding the situation to the best of your ability. Like Austin mentioned, the use of radicality and geomancy, for example, like it's all of these techniques come in, just inform a vital part of the strategy when it comes to approaching and solving these problems.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think too, like, especially turning things back on other people, which can be, lovely and it's funny how prevalent it is to see it as like, oh, this is the get out of jail karmically, scot-free card of like I can absolve any guilt that I have about this because somebody has sent it to me. And I think that, like you all have mentioned, I think there's instances where it cannot be helpful. And also too, it can be good to work antipathetically to whatever, I know somebody right now who's dealing with some very hot-headed people in their life, and um, we were discussing some stuff, and it's like, work coolly right now. Like, don't pay any mind to what's going on in that regard, and make sure that everything, and especially the other people who are very hot and very aggro right now, is like making sure that they're cool, calm, and collected. Um, Making sure that we're leveling heads, right? So it's not like, instead of going through and putting your lucky beans in your wax head and shaking them up or whatever, um, or your Gulen nails,
The Ghoulen
the
nails.
Oh,
Gulen
Mr.
nails.
Ghoul. Bring some nails over.
Right.
Um,
Nail me. And
what-
so it's not
Did you
just
remember
like,
to say thank you?
thank you so
Thank you
much,
for the
Mr. Gulen, for
nails.
nailing me so hard. Um, Poor demon.
One of the things about that though is like this is an example that gets invoked across these spaces, but I think is really super important to emphasize, right? Is like doing any sort of offensive work, even in retribution, or if it's consistent with your own moral compass, right? Is just like training some kind of like martial art, or deciding to like carry a firearm, right? It's like there must be some balance to suddenly having a skill or a tool or an ability to like really cause a disproportionate amount of harm for what the situation at hand is. And in the that temptation might be there, but cultivating that balance and in yourself, and advising it to others at that is even more important in some ways.
Totally. And like I said, it's like we'll get to the juicy parts in time, but this is really still important. And part of that is good divination skills. Part of
Mhm.
that is good knowing how to cool your spirits when they're angry on your behalf. Uh, Feeding them starchy foods, cooling them down with cooler
Mhm.
herbs and like cooling like waters and so on, making sure that they're able to see that like what you need and the support that you need right now is information. Like you need a good vantage point if something like this is happening. If you're being cursed, or let's say you're like physically being having the physical of a curse happen to you, which is like you were hurt physically, or your money was hurt physically, like as in like someone stole from you, someone broke into your apartment, like your boss took your surplus wage, surplus value, whatever. You got to know how to proceed so that it doesn't get to the point where it's damaging you in some way, or it's alienating spirits from you. That's one thing that Salt mentioned, right? You can actually have spirits disagree with your opinion and feel like the course of action that you took made you lose merit with them. So, and also, this is all keeping in mind, a lot of us as like witches and sorcerers have really hot spirits around us. They're going to encourage revenge. That are going to encourage, like, you're just going to take that kid, And so you're going to want to actually fight. And
bro, you're gonna take that? You're
you're
gonna
just going to
fucking
take
take
that,
that,
bro?
bro?
So, in the even more extreme examples, if you're not at war, they will make a war for you. So you'd
Yes.
better hope that you can turn that internally and be at a war against your aggression, right?
Yes, exactly. Because especially when you have warrior spirits or you're initiated into systems that primarily have hot spirits, like one of the things that will occur is they'll be like, we're not at a war, so where's the war? And you can say the war is my poverty, or the war is my lack of abundance in these areas. The war is my lack of love or friendship. The war is my health. Like we need to fight for a better health. We need to fight for my ability to have my health be improved. So just ways to mobilize these spirits. And also I think just having, like, this is just a personal tip, having a cadre of spirits, an inner coven, if you will, of spy masters with their own servants, their own legions. I think for whatever reason Gulan is like the demon of the fucking episode, but like from the Grammarian Verum. But like really it's just like many spirits that are not demons have legions under them. Like they have literal armies of spirits or various beings that exist to be their familiars and like their subordinates. So hiring them out, giving them more lavish offerings so they can pay these spirits. That's one reason to do big offerings. It's not to overfeed your main spirits, but so they can actually distribute it. Granted, you have to know they're actually distributing it as opposed to eating it all for themselves. But if you're like, this is payment to the many spirits you will hire to just work for me, to keep these watch posts, as it were, lit up for me, that's another good move. And so yeah, I think cool, a way to keep your head cool in crisis: get a reading from someone you trust, go to your spirits and be like, give me the big picture of this. Take a cooling bath, protect yourself first, right? Like do whatever you need to do for protection, and then see what you have to do for defense, including erecting additional defenses around you, your classic firewall protection, that kind of stuff. Or if you need to start moving into disabling someone's ability to fuck with you in the first place. This can obviously take the form of just like nullifying the magic as it affects you, or it could mean nullifying their ability to do it in the first place. And which approach you should take can obviously have its role, depending on what divination says and depending on what your spirits are offering to do for you.
I bind you, Nancy. I bind you from doing harm against yourself and harm against others.
Nancy did nothing wrong, okay?
No, literally, she's justified. She's just a girl.
She's just like, oh no. We've all ovulated once, okay? It's fine.
Right, literally. Sorry.
But yeah, tell us then. What are your thoughts on topic? How do you know when it gets spicy? How do you know when to go all out?
Well, I'm very much of the mind, get divination. And I think that we're gonna probably keep saying that. And for anybody at home who like rolls their eyes and is like, ugh, but I just like, when do I act? I will also be the first one to say, and Sfinga and Key, you both know me personally. I'm pretty slow to react. Like I'm not a very like hot-headed person. Actually to the point where I think like sometimes I can heat it takes a lot for me to heat up, but it can really like boil over when it does. So I'm not usually the kind of person who's quick, like even with clients, I'm usually like, let's take a break. Let's start off slow. If clients come to me in distress, I want to make sure to hold space for that. But like there's almost always going to be an instance, whether it's through geomancy, whether it's Rubius falling in the first, or certain other cards that come up, especially within like the first card that I pull is like, hey, let's take a breather, let's take 5, do a little cleansing, do the protection that you need to do, or like literally go put your head and your feet in cold water, and drink some as well, to like level things out and cool things off. I like to work cold, or I'm sorry, I like to work hot with a cool head, right? And I think that's something that, can be really beneficial, is like, how do we strategize this? But I think when it gets to be like enough is enough and you have to take action, I think, I don't know, like what is that threshold for like somebody's wronged you enough? For me, I can actually be maybe I shouldn't say this like publicly, but like I can be pretty tolerant of like, whatever, because I would much rather have a conversation, and this is if it's like personal wronging, right? I'd rather have a conversation. I'd rather talk about something, than have to, do the big offerings, do a ton of work. In my opinion, vengeance and revenge and hate and all those things. They're an investment of time, of money, and of energy. And if I'm lacking one of those things, even, I have to question for myself. And this hopefully is also something good for that I might impart on my clients. Like, if you're lacking time, money, and energy, is it worth it? Like, maybe you can just send them some evil eye and or quick crossings, like lighting a black candle with some crossing oil, or some salt over a picture of them, and just like letting that be, and then just like walking away. Is that what you need to do? I can't answer that for you, but I think that for me personally, if I don't have the time, the money, or the energy, because it does get expensive also, I don't know about y'all, but beef tongues have really went up in the US.
Oh my God. I got a pack of like I go to a Chinese grocery store to get the tongues, and usually they have like a beef tongue that's like solo, or you can buy a pack of 3 pork tongues. And they didn't have beef last time. I had to do anti-gossip work on behalf of a friend, and it ended up being like I got a 3-pack, so the other 2 I froze, and I'm like, next time if they ever roll up on my girl next time.
Right.
Even better sympathy for getting cops not to testify against you, but anyway.
Yeah.
With a donut offering. No, you're right, you're so right, Austin. And I think also that goes into that when you do have to move, it's often from a place of, this is to prevent further harm. This is to ensure that this beef, like sometimes you got to quash something so it doesn't continue, especially if slander is happening. Like I would love to live in a world in which we can genuinely settle everything by a nice adult conversation. But unfortunately, not only do we not live in that world, but we're also occultists. So we live even less in that world than ordinary
exactly.
people do. Because you have like, I was bullied in high school, and now I'm a level 99 wizard, and I'm just going to do a curse on you.
It's actually so me. The bitchy,
in fact, don't work actually.
Right. The bitchy faggy fat girl to evil occultist pipeline for me is so real. No, I'm totally joking. But
oh my God.
Oh,
Can we put it on a t-shirt?
Absolutely. I'm gonna get you up for that one. But no, yeah. So it's like,
okay. Frightful House is a safe space, and we do get pretty spicy on here.
Now, why don't you come tell me about that pipeline?
Oh no.
Funnel
there was a complaint. There was a complaint in our Q&A. The patrons get to submit questions every month that we read out loud and we answer at the end of every month on Patreon. There was a complaint last time you were on that said that BK didn't queen out with you. I think this is.
I feel like we're queening out right now.
Yeah. This is the closest it's gonna get. Okay, guys. So just enjoy it.
Yeah. There is no queen. There is only Jeff Goldblum.
I am screaming.
Oh my God.
Now some might call me a queen.
Oh no.
Why don't you come and queen out with me over a game of Parcheesi?
Not Parcheesi.
No.
Oh
my God. This is the hot spirits telling you. Yeah.
I think one of the things though about when you know to pull the trigger, as it were, on a lot of the spicier stuff is when, like, part of the diagnosis that I do in the divination is what is immediately affected for this. Because, if someone is getting if there's some shit going down, right? I like to, and this is actually informed by some like kind of Southern and Southeast Asian like exorcistic techniques, where it's like you start with what is the most mild. You begin with what is like, let's get this person to be compassionate. Let's get this person to see the situation for what it actually is. Let's get them to chill the fuck out. Let's go through all these processes of getting them to that place of care or empathy or whatever, that they stop doing that. That said, if the situation is much more severe, like if that is in the analysis of the situation, that's obviously not an option because it's like this person just needs to fucking, you know, not be doing what they're doing right now. Then you scale up to what is like the minimum immediately effective thing. So I'm like, if this gets to a situation where, let's say there's a situation, right, where client comes to me and they're like, I was I've been fighting a lot with such and such family member, and they really hurt me, and I'm, spooked that they might do that again. I'm like, do we jump to the big guns of, get this person like seriously injured to the point that they can't do that anymore, or do we just get them the fuck away?
Yeah, like in domestic violence situations.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's another part of it too, is when you're doing that kind of work for someone, is checking in on like what will happen to their life.
Right.
So like domestic violence is a really good example of this, because if you straight up attack the abuser with everything you have and get them in a car accident and get them disabled in some way, like they end up like really hurt, that can, or if it doesn't work fully where they're not fully like incapacitated, they can now react with even more violence against the client, because they're, as abusers tend to continue their abuse the more they feel vulnerable and the more that they feel that they are powerless, right? It's a way of it's a way of maintaining power. You want to do something to make sure that an arrest can happen, or that a restraining order can be granted and honored, that kind of thing, or that the client is empowered in a way to move out. They're able to kind of get out of a situation financially. They can find a shelter or whatever it is they need. That sudden relatives volunteers to house them, that kind of thing, like that. And then after that, you can putting all your protection on that person and stripping power away from the abuser. So like one form of vengeance work, it may not sound like, oh, vengeance, like you're gonna go and like get off of this thing, get them girls, like when you do your familiars. It might be like, actually
let's go girls.
Like,
oh, Gulan.
No, not Gulan.
I have a job for you, Gulan.
There is so much that can be done with the Curse of Nails and the Grimoire Invarium. It's why we keep joking about it. But really where we're going at is telling the spirit, okay, remove power from this person. Like, what is the best revenge? Sometimes against someone who miswields power or who thinks themselves powerful because they can hurt others, completely disabling their ability to do so. Not to be all Avatar Aang for a moment, but like, just fucking seal their bending, bitch. Like, take away their abilities.
She was an icon. What a doll.
No, seriously.
But I agree. I think that, like, as much as I like the haha, I bind you Nancy joke is funny. It's like, okay, well, when do you pull out the twine and the photo, or you're just straight up telling spirits like, this is what I need to happen, and that is get this person to stop before, and maybe you do, break the bones, break the necks, break the knees, start taking your candles and cracking them in half, and snuffing them out. But like, I think too, yeah, there's gradations, and it doesn't always have to be. I think one thing that I've dealt with some certain people in my life who are magical people, which, wink wink nudge nudge, they're unhinged. They're the immediate thing is like, let's do some of the most ridiculous, and oftentimes overcomplicated. And I think, if it becomes more complex than it's worth, does that make it better? And I think that that isn't always helpful either, but it's like almost always jumping to the most extreme. And it's like, no, like what you're saying, Svinga, is like making sure it's like, okay, can we get you out first in this hypothetical situation? It's like, this is the other part of, I think, that responsibility of this type of work in particular, where it's like, okay, let's get you to the point where, yes, we can, the divination says it's good, spirits say that it's good, all of that in terms of vengeance is wonderful, but like, let's get you to a shelter or to a home or moved out or get you a job so you have the way, like a means to leave, or making those magic Grimoire Verum garters that carry you 20 leagues an hour, so that you can get the fuck out, but it's like, I think those are the things that can be really helpful to think about before straight up, Annie, get your gunpowder.
Get that goddamn gunpowder.
Fetch me musket.
Yes, yes, indeed. No, very true. And that's also, secure the safety first. Really, if the agency is deprived, you want to restore it. That's number one.
Mhm.
And then two, limit the other person's ability to do the work. There's some nice ways you can do that where you blend the mundane with the magical, right? Like, oh, they're doing creepy shit to me, or like they're like stalking or doing those kinds of things. Like, well, let's get them caught. Like this social shame aspect of it is really good. So like one thing that I've done I don't take on clients directly, like I do word of mouth kind of workings in person, but not necessarily over the internet yet. That's more key your thing. But what I have done in situations like this is like basically like shine a light. Like this is like solar magic can be really good for this. Like if you're working with planets, because like the illumination is where like all the eyes are now on the person. Like, oh, expose that they're doing this. Because people talk shit, in private and they want to seem big and bad and powerful. But what happens when people see, like, what happens when the group chat gets leaked? You know what I mean? Like, where it's exposed that they've been doing this, or that they've been thinking about doing it, or that they're talking about you like this. Like, there's an element there where it's just like, oh, like there is now their behavior is exposed, and that shame and that social isolation can push them back into it. So, like, this has happened in the past with friends of mine who have had like literally other occultists, like it's not even like just ordinary people, but like occultists specifically start slandering them, making up stories about them. Even in my life, this has happened, and so it's just like, well, I'm not going to do anything about it, like in the sense that like I'm going to go and find out who did it, like or find out where this rumor started. Like I'm just going to expose the source and let it speak for itself. There's a nice thing about telling the truth is that you never have to keep your story straight. And another side of it too, I think, is really when you're dealing with like a stalker or some kind of like person that's aggressing, like illuminating their activities can be a huge source of shame. Now you want to be in a safe space where they don't react to you, but like that can absolutely cause, especially in this day and age where everything is so surveilled, it can actually work to your advantage. So as much as I may hate the surveillance state and the way that our privacy is constantly being, violated by all these companies that unfortunately we sign their terms of service and they just eat our data, there are ways it can work in your favor. And that is one of them. Another one is the kind of solar magic as well, or having your spirits do this, is exposure. So like if you can't make their deeds be exposed passively, you can do it actively, like make them confess. This is a kind of work that I really teach a lot of people to do, even in divination sessions. It comes up and I'm like, you should just make this person confess in public that they did this. You should make them own that it was them, whether it was magical or mundane workings against your agency. Like have them come out and be like, my bad, that was me. Or not even apology, but just like freaking out to a certain point where it comes out and it's substantiated, because that also gives you ammunition and protection, and also puts you in the role where you're no longer a victim necessarily, but somebody who is actively recuperating power.
Yeah, one of the techniques that I've kind of employed in client work for this is the solar pentacle from the Key of Solomon that allows people to see spirits. Take that when it's done up on like gold and metal properly, and use it to reflect light onto the image of the person you're trying to get to admit. And be like, illuminate their spirit. Let everyone see this particular spirit and conjure it to be that person's, So if you have a bunch of dressed candles, for instance, that have like, all the stuff in there that makes tongues speak. You can even put like an eloquence oil in there and stuff like that. But
or like deer's tongue.
Exactly. Yeah. Deer's tongue, sometimes like slippery elements, stuff like that can work. Any of those like big, also whatever else, social lubricants, like you can get a bunch of like alcohol involved, stuff like that. But really just, using that light as a property and reflecting it onto the image really helps. And even then in the charming, there's a pun that is employed, it's like, let the image reflect their deeds,
Yeah, that's such a good idea. I love that, like reflecting the light of a solar pentacle onto things. That's something that I've done in other situations with like Jupiter pentacles, especially the one for protection from like illness. But yeah, that's a good point. Even just a skull candle with like the fourth of Mercury underneath, like for revealing hidden things, and being like, well, reveal your hidden plots. Like betray your own privacy to the world. Make it so that people now know what you're about. And I think that is an important part of like quote unquote vengeance. It can be like best served cold, also best served with a full confession in writing. That's happened a few times when like slander has happened where I'm just like, I go to my spirits and I'm like, listen, this person's being slandered. Make the person doing the slandering fully confess in writing that they lied.
The
Exactly, yeah.
you can build up on that as well. Like it's especially when it comes to dealing with other practitioners, right? They have their own spirits. Sometimes these spirits are going to have their own views on these kind of matters. They're not necessarily going to appreciate their, whatever their relationship with that spirit is. And in that respect, like when you say put it in writing, you can quite literally do that and have your spirits kind of file a report with theirs, bringing up every single act of wrongdoing that they've done. Obviously, this isn't going to work with certain practitioners with certain kinds of spirits. This is very situational, right? But I'm mostly thinking here when we're talking about practitioners who come from traditions where, or they have spirits who aren't necessarily going to be happy with their behavior, who are going to, you know, be quite pissed off when they see them behave in this way, especially if they're using, you know, authority or blessings that they've received from those specific spirits and filing that report, burning the letter, having your spirits deliver it to theirs, and essentially accusing them in front of their own spirits can be it can neuter some people pretty sometimes quite severely, even depending on how far it goes, what they've done. If they've broken oaths, for example, like it can be quite devastating to a practice in the long term, specifically, actually.
I love
Especially when
broken oath magic. I think I've talked about it before, right? Like so like being like, hey, if you can't keep an oath to me, for example, like a broken oath is a great link. Like if you don't have the hair or the spit or the seminal fluid or whatever it is that you need, the fingernails, if they broke a promise to you, certain spirits can hold them to that and be like, that's a link because there's a tie between us.
yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. I think that so in situations like these, like talking about these gradations, like one of the first things that I'll usually do if we've covered our bases and making sure that people are chilled out, safe, um, and where we have the go ahead is like one of the first things that can be really helpful, like you're talking about, Salt, is to go to other people's spirits if you have the ability to do so. And again, it can be really situational. But even speaking with their dead, not everybody is dead or good, are really helpful in these situations. There's also, you know, for every man I dated whose mother would excuse all of his shitty behavior, it's like that is something you have to look out for. But it's like usually people will have your back somewhere down the line where it's like, hey, this person is not helpful, has been really like shitty to me or to my friend or to my client, and talking about that and literally, yeah, getting it in writing, sending it to them, and then even using, if you are using physical materia like letters that have been burnt down to ash, like using that in some of the workings, to get other people either mad, other spirits mad at this person. It's kind of like turning people against the people that you're trying to work against, which can take effort. And again, I think it is very situational, but I think it can be really helpful. So those are usually where one of the first things that you might start doing is to like talk to other dead people. Which can be really helpful, as well as other, so like maybe not human spirits, but I'll leave that up to mystery.
I
And
love that technique. It's such a good one to be like, hey, ancestors visitor person, you're really gonna let them do this and giving them a more lavish offering and also just shaming them and be like, this shames your bloodline or something like that. Like I've had some success
Right.
with that technique, being like making a lavish offering and being like, this is an embarrassment onto your lineage. Correct
Like,
it or it reflects you too.
girl, do you really want to let him be doing this?
getting a bit dark here, but it's also a matter of, you want to rein your descendant in, right?
Yeah.
And shaking them up a little bit because, the immediate ancestors are going to be the ones most involved, and most of the time they're not necessarily going to be fed, they're not necessarily going to be juiced up, so to speak. A lot of their ancestors may even have had improper burials, and they aren't necessarily going to. You can leverage that, right? You can a couple words with their ancestors, telling them essentially what's going to happen if their descendant keeps misbehaving, can show results very quickly. That might be too spicy, maybe, I don't know, but
No.
How do you feel about bullying ancestors?
Me?
Ever since I saw that quote, the word bullied ancestors has stuck in my mind.
So it's from Ashansha, right?
It is, yeah. But I didn't even think of what I was saying, connect it to that. But now that you have, now I can't stop.
I'm just saying it's clearly on the mind.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is something about having other spirits fall in line. And if you can't do it directly, go to this Karen out, go to their superior, go like,
Right.
can I call your manager? And it just goes to like the next deity or spirit that is over them, or like a patron of that particular place. And like, if this is one of the reasons why it's good to keep many reasons, but like keeping which spirits you work with a secret, not letting people know who your patrons are in different systems, not like know which deities you work with. It's one thing if it's like, okay, there's a deity that I work with, and part of honoring them is being public about it. I think everyone with the Saint Expedite practice tends to do that. In the case of like a saint. But it's another thing to be like, you know what, if I know that this person like works with this deity and it's supposed to be like a deity of like wisdom or moderation or like peace or something like that, or like whatever, I can be like, this is not very wise of your child.
A deity of secrecy, even.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think kind of in that vein as well, about like the care and keeping of spirits and right conduct before them. Whenever I'm in defensive situations magic wise, I like to make my enemies fucking stupid as the first order of business, because I'm like,
that's so true.
I don't want you to even be able to think of the steps it would take to get you to the correct solution out of this problem.
That is
I
very
forgore.
I forgore.
I
Literally
forgore.
making them forgetful, making them dumb, making them like confused, like all that level of stuff, where it's like the fucking Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock movie where it's like discombobulate over and over again.
Yes.
It's exactly that, where it's like, just make it so that they're not doing the things that would get them out of the situation.
Very true. But it's such a good form of vengeance, for real. Like, absolutely getting them dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many plants that are good for that. There's so many spirits that are good for that.
Yeah.
There's so many different workings that are good for that. I know a few people who swear by skull candles for this reason, because you can oil pins and put it directly into the candle and not burn the candle, but use it as like a living fetish, where you just kind of anoint it over and over again. You can make it watch things. You can put on nothing but YouTube brain rot and be like, this is Italian brain
I'm
rot.
screaming.
Yes, tra-la content, nothing but like
you're fated. Who's cooking?
Yes,
it's
I will.
Me.
I put only AI slop on a smartphone that's plugged in and put it for the skull candle and be like, now you're watching nothing but this.
Yeah,
literally.
But one of the things that I like to do for that is I'll take like, write their name out 8 or 9 times on like 8 strips of paper or 9 strips of paper, whatever it is, and then take the skull candle and take like kind of a core from like the brain, throw all those in a mortar and pestle with salt and poppy seeds and just grind it into like a gray paste, and then shove it back in the skull to be like, let all the intellect be sapped, let the numbing of these seeds and like the confusion and placation that they bring come in, and then just let the brain just kind of be
mush
ground away in the mortar and pestle.
You put Family Guy on one screen, put Subway Surfers on the other.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just an 8-hour-long lo-fi meditation, but it's just the Scooby-Doo running noise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I do really think that I'm not even joking about that for record. Yes, it's a meme, but it's so real. It's like making the skull candle watch things, oiling it every night. Because one way like love spells can work that way, right? Like masturbating in front of it, like fully, like actually covering it in fluids, like putting your panties over it or something like that. Like there's lots of ways you can kind of like tease the skull candle, as it were. And then on the other hand, same for like this, like just absolutely fill it with brain rot. And also cotton is another one, like cotton balls. I really like muffling thoughts, making it so it's in, like, especially if you have one of those like now be careful when you burn these, because obviously they'll go whoosh, but like I'm like stuffing like one that has like a hole in it where it's like removable. Some people make really good candles where like they have a removable center
Mhm.
where you can actually like fill it and then put the lobe back on and then burn it. So it's actually you could load it very easily. But in general, you want to like anoint the eyes so like oh, your eyes only see this, your hands only do this, your feet only do this, your heart only feels this. And you can blend it out. You can like obscure the lips, stitch them together so they can't speak. You can like cross out the eyes and gouge them. I knew one person who said that when they work skull candles, or they work just like not even a candle, but just like a replica skull, or you can
Yeah.
buy like a Halloween thing they anoint to kind of like cover in their own wax and stuff like that. Like they literally just keep burning candles until the wax like flows over every crevice and becomes like a candle that way. One thing they do is they get those like fake eyes like that would fit into the skull, and like as they juju them and oil them up, they turn them around so
Yeah.
they're facing backwards.
That's good. I like that. I was gonna say one of the things as well is like if you have skull effigies that are more realistic like that, stuffing like flowers into the eyes so that it's just like covering them consistently.
Yeah, or like actually putting the nails in the lobes that are responsible for different kinds of thoughts.
Ooga.
Wooga, yeah.
Yeah.
Googly eyes, very, very kitsch. But also like have, because you know there's that like you can shake them, and keep things like whatever you're watching is like confusing. Putting like confusion oil or things like that on there, and then like tossing it into black mustard and like a lot
Poppy
of
seed.
poppy seeds,
Mhm.
or even like little down here we have Abra seeds that grow everywhere. So I like using those as confusing agents, to like shake things up a little bit, you know?
Yes, yes. And we've given this warning before on the episodes, like many episodes, I think, but I can't quite remember which one, where we were saying that like be careful because when you do curses or when you do like aggressive malefic magic, it's very hard to pull your punches. Like you're like, oh, I'm only confusing him. I'm just doing like a poppy seed, black mustard seed working, with maybe some like quassia bark or something like that. Like I'm only doing that. Like I'm not actively trying to like harm this person. I just want them confused so that they don't do well on their job interview that I'm also up for, and so that I win the job and they don't. Because next thing you know, they're confused driving home on the highway and like they don't really know how to drive anymore, and then they get into a crash.
Right.
So it's really hard to pull punches and like knowing the effect that you will have in your curse, because it's very easy to take a knife and stab someone many times and cause death or like grievous bodily harm. It's very hard to take a scalpel and do surgery. So cursing or Malefica is actually in some ways a very easy magic, because you know with enough rage, with enough force, as it were, with enough spirit power, it's not like a particularly complicated way of doing magic. But having said that, like maneuvering it with some finesse, yes, it takes skill, but it also is not always possible to pull that punch once it's out there. Like you never know what it will get rolling. The confusion spell can also cause like a marriage to be broken up because the person kisses someone they don't realize it's not their wife, that kind of thing. Like who knows? It depends on how strong the confusion is. So just be aware of this. And again, sometimes you just gotta do this kind of thing. But other times you just got to be a little bit more divine, a little bit ahead of time, like how will this affect them, and then know that it's not, or just know like there are other possibilities for how this could affect them. Am I comfortable with the range?
And even for the same act, like if you do decide you're within the ethos to do the confusion spell and you want to do that and you're okay with the risk, knowing who to go to be the agent of that spell is also super important, because if you go to the spirit whose approach to the world is everything is a nail and I'm a perfect hammer, then you're going to have a very different outcome than if you go to a spirit who is very good at like fine tuning the effects of magic, or putting up guardrails, or like opening very unique and interesting and specific paths for the enchantment to manifest in exactly the way that the petition goes. Both of those spirits have their place, but again, very different outcomes for exactly the same petition, just based on what they know to do with the material and how you're kind of going down that line.
A very good point.
I think with moving on the gradations of heating, or not even just heating, but getting what's the next step after that, and is making sure the gloves are off. I think that can and this is if again you're going to war, or which hopefully you know you don't have to, but we don't live in a perfect world, and so certain things can be done where you know we've already talked about you know kind of shaming ancestors or you know kind of bullying other spirits, but then also too you know doing certain workings to make sure that the wards are being broken, taken down, um, reversed even, so that they're in your favor, um, or penetrating those many layers. You know, especially if you're a professional worker, um, and you're going up against a professional worker. Which don't do that to me, but like you know, making sure that we're
Mods.
right. I'll know.
Friendly disclaimer to the listeners: do not fucking do it.
Yeah, we're being so nice because we're like, oh, we, you know, we're gonna be professional about this, and not reveal like the ways to absolutely fuck somebody over on the
Right,
air,
it's
right?
like
You know, we're like dancing around a little bit. It's just like you know, like it's not a really good idea, and it's just like you know, when the divination comes down, it's time to go, guns out. Like it's not like we don't know how to throw down.
right, and you know, me trying to like preserve a little bit of like, you know, some of this secret sauce.
Oh,
But
well, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, and but it's also like also this is a fun it is a fun subject. It's also fun to talk about it with you know, amongst friends and almost being like, oh, there's other ears in the room. But yeah, making sure to penetrate those, you know, those layers of protection, so that you can break some of those things down. And of course, you know, really you know, simple things, and I'll keep it simple because I don't want to go into like huge secret sauce details, but like, you know, of course, undoing people's Lord's prayers and all those wonderful ideas from this very Christian worldview of like, of course, everybody has you know the Lord's Prayer protecting them. You know, it's not like any other religion exists where that may or may not work, but your mileage may vary.
Well, you know, it's not about revealing secret sauce, which, you know, everyone has their formulas that they should not be stating live on public air, but it is also about making sure that like you have layers of protection. So like here's a little recommendation. Have some protection for your bed, where you sleep, your house in general, your rough neighborhood area. So this is burying things at the main crossroads that exit your neighborhood. Like what is the general, not just the postal code, but like the general area in which you live. Then the larger area that is a part of, and then the city or town. And then going out of that, you want something for possibly even the state, province, or country. This, for me, comes from an oral charming practice that I've initiated into from Serbia called Bajanje, in which sometimes the baileys of the oral charm will name, like, for example, like the magic has to reach the person from, let's say, the region to the town to the crossroad to the street to their doorstep to their sofa or to their table, onto the plate, into the spoon, into the mouth, down the esophagus, into the stomach, and that's where it hurts them. And like it goes like that, and that's also how you reverse. You go in the order, right? You know, or you might want to be like, and if the person who is doing this work against me is dead, like, as in that's a spirit that's doing this work against me, then may it find same process, but then you go like into the cemetery, into the grave, down into the coffin, into their flesh, into like their rotting bones, and that it does not leave. Like that's how the oral charms tend to work, structurally speaking. And so that to a sorcerer is also a clue of that's how you can actually protect at every level. And of course, they get more vague and abstract as you go out. Like, you know, the primary one under the bed or the one for the house can be very like a decoy that includes like lots of different personal concerns. And as it goes out, it gets a little bit bigger, or like rather bigger, right? Like bigger scale things. And it includes like a pact with the city, a pact with the country. It includes like pacts with the spirits that protect these places. So like if your country, for example, has an official saint, or like your province or your state has an official saint, like you can do that. Or like if it has like a main particular like spirit known for it, you know, you can do that. Like there's so many different levels. I'm sure we could talk to Maria about it, our mutual friend, and ask her about like the feng shui ways to do this. But ultimately, like what you're doing is you're recognizing that you live in an ecosystem, and there are spirits that you can always go to. Like let's say your court is like an army, and they have soldiers, right? And the soldiers are particularly powerful. and like they are capable assassins that can go out and do all kinds of things for you. But they're living in a ruined fortress, right? Where like it is nothing but like cobbled together defenses. They don't really have new equipment. They don't really have supplies. They can still be just as powerful as they are in that environment. But imagine if they were protecting a fortress that had up to, you know, like next level like defenses. They had like a moat or something like that. Like they had like lots and lots of reserve weapons, lots of supplies. Like that's having like, a decked out place. So you could say like, well, my spirits are powerful, they should have protect me. Sure, but don't you want them to have an easier time doing so? Because then when something happens, they're not as distracted. They can't like not just like, oh, I can't like do other things for you. I'm so dedicated to protecting you right now, and that could be a months long endeavor. But in this way, they can like draw on some of the tools you've given them, some of the extra talismans and decoys you've made for yourself. You can give, you know, tools that like weapons you've given them to help them attack more precisely and efficiently, and then they're done quicker. And they can, you know, there's a chain of command where they can relate to other spirits information. You can go out and like, let's say you have an alliance with the nearest fortress, or you have some kind of outposts out there, like these are land spirits that like clue you in, like bad magic is coming to you, and they'll like, affect the plants in your house first or in your backyard. You're like, why are they kind of wilting? And then you do a divination, you're like, oh, something's up. There's a episode we did called So You Think You Can Ward, I think it was episode 13, where that goes a lot into how to build decoys. And like we'll do a full decoy episode later, but like it goes into like how to have extra protections that warn you ahead of time that your wards are being compromised. So I think that is a good one to also listen to in terms of like how do we set up systems in advance to protect us from situations like this happening in the first place without our foreknowledge.
I really like your analogy there. Like it kind of maps to the saying, right? Like tactics win battles, logistics wins wars. And in the same sense, when it comes to our spiritual practices, like building up the infrastructure, building up the logistics, so to speak, is pivotal in making sure that our spirits are able to support us when a time comes. It also means that, you know, it's going to change how we respond potentially to, you know, someone from shade at us, someone cursing us, spirits running rampant in our area and trying to, you know, roll up on us. Like, because then you've got spirits in place who are, you know, specifically on the lookout for that, right? Like sentries, keeping an eye open. It just changes the way that these problems are dealt with and the way that they're approached. And I think it's always, you know, alongside divination, one of the key points in strategizing and assessing any kind of situation where Malefica is being used is how do you build up the infrastructure so you can deal with the problem on hand and also the future problems, right? Like if it's going to be a recurring issue, especially, you know, where we were joking about practitioners earlier and like dealing with other professionals, and quite often you're going to see when they're thrown at someone, it's not just one time, right? Like it's a bit different to a random stranger throwing the evil eye at you out of envy on some random occasion, because you're getting someone who's dedicated, who's throwing a lot of weight your way. When one thing doesn't work, they're going to try something else. And so in those kind of situations, you need to be able to stand up to that. You need to be able to adapt to it, and you need to have the tools to do that. And I think building up, like you said, like addressing the locality, addressing the spirits of the place, both within your own home, outside of it, and beyond that, and dealing with the routes that Malefica can come towards you, and also addressing the way that your spirits, you know, are organized around that. However much you can, obviously, more often than not, you're going to be adhering to the way that they're already organized, their own hierarchies. They're going to establish that themselves. But you know, I really do like that analogy. I think it's kind of spot on when it comes to these things, and when it comes to addressing them, tends to be, you know, the optimal approach, so to speak, is be prepared, you know, have everything there before the shit even starts happening.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So, Austin, I'm curious, do you have any thoughts on, we talked about like how you keep cool in crisis and how you kind of like make sure that your spirits don't get ahead of themselves and start like, because I think we all probably share the same strategy of like having a lot of kind of contracts in place, like oral agreements with spirits being like, don't do this without my permission. These things you can do, but these things you shouldn't do. In terms of like, because, you know, some of them will be spicy and be like, I took care of it. And you're like, what do you mean? And it's just like nothing but like dead pigeons around this person's house. And you're like, wait, that's not, no.
Wait, no.
Oh, no, girl. Don't you even think about it.
Go on, you've been very naughty. You weren't meant to put on such a show for anyone
I listen. If you're not Jeff Goldblum summoning Golan, there are other ways to go about putting them in the stank box and still having good negotiations. So like, I'm curious, like, what are your okay, if you are now officially without going into the secret sauce, like if you and being like, this is what I'm not being professional and nice. This is what I'm being nasty. Like if you're when
Nasty.
you're not ovulating, when you're in your your honor, my excuse was I was ovulating. If that's not happening, how do you respond in a way where you feel like, or how have you responded on behalf of clients where things got resolved and it was like a very sufficient way that things got to like justice, whatever your spirits conceive of that, but there was a sacrifice made still. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about these kind of idealistic scenarios where like, oh, it works out in this way and has a very clean ending, but like we all know these situations are much messier than we're letting on.
Mm-hmm.
So like what are those situations like? How do you remedy that, or how do you just kind of deal with it?
I think getting people prepared to, like you're talking about, it can be really difficult to pull a punch when you're like when you are going balls to the walls. Even if you're not going fully balls to the walls, a simple confusion working can turn into, I've even had like things happen to me where like I'm doing, just simple invisibility work, and then both of my headlights on my car go out when I'm like driving home at night, and
now you're invisible.
And now I'm truly invisible, literally. And I had to like drive from, like Orlando when I used to work out there, and I lived out here. I like had to drive using the light of my hazards, which is crazy and very dangerous. Don't do that. But doing those kinds of workings, I think it can be really good to get people set up to know like, hey, you might have to put your money where your mouth is and pay your way forward. That might be the case of something happening too. I think it can be really after everybody is all nice and heated up and potentially the work is done, where you see when things are going a little bit too spicy, it can be like, hey, like you had said, starchy or cool, very cool things, even presenting specific spirits like glasses of ice, not even just ice water, but like full-blown ice, and then just like letting that the condensation of the sweat on their sigils like chill out, is like, okay, let's take a deep breath and calm down. But in those moments too, it can already be like, it can sometimes be too late. And I think that for other people, for clients in particular, I think there's a discussion around making sure that they know that that can happen. If the work is going well. For me, for me personally, if I'm already at the point where I'm doing that kind of work, I'm usually like, I don't care what happens. Like, I'm like, destroy them with lasers or whatever. But I hope did that answer your question?
Yes, and I would just say I do like the ice technique that you just mentioned, but I do have to say that it's like such an America moment.
Mm-hmm.
It is so, yeah, it's so American. I literally one time I went to this was back when BGS was doing online only, and I had actually anticipated that they were going to be back by 2021, and I had bought a ticket out to Seattle, but I didn't have a ticket to the event because they were online only. So I said, okay, whatever, I'm going to go to Seattle and just like hang out for a weekend. And from being from the South, I didn't realize I forgot that other people in the world, A, don't have air conditioners, and B, don't drink ice. And I literally went to every place that I went to in Seattle, they were like, oh yeah, we don't have ice here. Or you had to specifically request it. And I was like, this is crazy for me. And it was like in the middle of summer, and it was like when they had just had a massive heat wave too. And I was like, yeah, don't love that.
Can I just say though that like this is why, Austin, you need an invisibility protection, and because everywhere you go, you just hear the ice jingling in the iced coffee.
That's so real.
Just like swirling it like a rattlesnake.
That's my defense mechanism. That's how you know you're getting too close.
Yeah, you just hear the ice rattling.
Just like to get a a big bowl and fill it up with some ice, and then you crack open the Saratoga water and
Oh
The
no.
Saratoga
scrub
water.
down with a banana peel.
Oh no,
You know,
not
you
the
know what I'm talking about.
the ultimate grind set bath
Mhm.
that makes you waste 6 hours of your life doing absolute fuck all.
Mhm.
That's so real.
Mhm. In seriousness though, like technique wise, like when you're throwing down for the nasty shit, right? It's like
Mhm.
you and even using the extreme example, like you're gonna, go for the full Kimbanda aesthetics, and light up all the gunpowder and have all the fun stuff going on and really be like blowing shit up, getting the spirits nice and hot, spraying them down with like, chili infused liquor.
Right.
You better be knowing how to receive them when they come back.
Right.
Yeah, when they come
Um,
back triumphant and they're like, "What's good, homie?" And they're
mhm,
like really, really, really intense.
mhm.
Mhm.
And even hotter because, they might have at that point, metaphorically or physically, depending, tasted blood.
Mhm.
I was
So,
just thinking too of I had a teacher both as like a actual like a school teacher when I was a kid. So this is a very long or quite a while ago. And I was pretty young, but he actually had a little bit of um magic on him too. And so he was a very young like influence in some of the things that I would do. And he actually had this superstition about like certain weapons or certain blades particularly like being marked with red in some way, whether that be through a cloth, usually it was through a cloth, or even marking it with um like Fanta, like red Fanta, because you wanted to make sure that the like this whatever the weapon was, it had tasted blood. So there was a lot of superstitions about pulling the weapon out or anything like that, and then anointing it or marking it with red to make sure
Mhm.
that it's not coming after you, right?
Right.
So it has that redness on it, which is an interesting way because it I pull from so many different ideas of like, well, maybe the best way for it to not want blood is to not give it blood, but your mileage will vary with that. But I think too, like satiation can be really important for everybody, cooling everybody off. Or if you want to be ridiculous, pulling out more gunpowder and lighting everybody up and saying, okay, on to the next one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because like you can tell your spirits like, oh, like this person like insulted you. This person insulted um you, this person insulted you, this person insulted you, like going to every one of your spirits and be like,
Mhm.
you were slander too. Okay, like by extension, and getting them all heated and angry and salivating, and then being like, go get them. Like
Yeah.
this is the person who did
It's
it.
like who stole the cookie from the cookie jar, but like
Exactly,
for like
exactly.
working everybody up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then other ways of also getting like pork like something that tastes like human, as it were, or allegedly close to human. I
I
you know
wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know. I would not know.
Oh, but we haven't
And
had long pig in ages for dinner.
exactly, exactly.
Whoa.
That one really got key. Sorry, he's having a moment because of the fucking Hannibal montage that is playing in our brains right now. But like, yeah, it's like and just covering it in like palm oil or anything else, and just being like juicy things, ripe things, and being like, this is for you. This is and hiding all the tag locks,
Mhm.
the concerns, personal concerns in there, and like, this is for you. This is for you, and then you kind of like fuck it up, like you blow it up or something like that. Like, no, 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 you gotta get the real thing. Like you get them salivating, or I like to like burn hair or personal links in front of the nose of like dog spirits or hunting spirits and be like, smell this and go and get it. Like go like kind of like when you show a dog like a cloth and like it has their sweat on it and be like, now go get the real thing. Track it down. And if you don't have a personal link, be like, track it for me. It's the broken promise. It's the fact that they're slandering me. It's the fact that they're fixated on you, really. If like they're actually
Mhm.
aggressing on you, it's that they're fixated on you. So it's like, well, they're thinking about me. So let's use that to our advantage.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. And have you ever smelled pork being deliciously cooked in yummy red oils. You must never cut your hair again.
You must never eat the red oil.
Literally, yeah.
But like peppers and onions and pork, I mean, it smells really good. It tastes very good. I'm a big pork fan, so I get it. I'm like, yeah, this work. But I think in instances like that, yeah, like wrapping things up, making things really nice and salt is a complicated one, right? Salt, you are complicated. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But like like the actual mineral salt can be really intense, right? It has a lot of different connections to it, but like rolling things in salt and being like, look, this has flavor. Go after this, go after the people, stuffing things with yes, your Gulen nails or razor blades anointed in doom oil or what have you. Even just getting things that are like some of the nasty bits, spit, effluvium. I knew someone once who was like, oh, I'm a powerful witch, let me tell you, because every single time I suck on my teeth, blood comes out. And I'm like, ooh, mama, that's gingivitis.
No. That's gingivitis,
That's
girl.
gingivitis, girl. Oh, no, girl.
Oh my God. Austin, Jesus Christ, that's going to stick with me.
much like the
Spit
toothpaste.
on that thing.
Oh no.
Oh no, man.
That's horrifying. What the fuck?
I think I mentioned that to this person within the past like couple of years, and they were like, I have since then started flossing my teeth, and I'm like, good.
Honestly,
I'm really
that's growth.
Yeah, good. We don't care about where you were. We care about where you are now.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Progression. It's great. That's called growth.
Yes. At the Frightful House, you may hear we celebrate both moral growth and the regrowth of your gums.
9 out of 10 dentists recommend the Frightful House. You may hear.
And the frightful veneers you may don.
Not the George Santos veneers.
Oh,
hey, sussy rumblers.
Just pack them full of materia anyway. Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, listen, I think this is a really good conversation on strategy and the kind of ethos and like how to approach these things with a cool mind is again kind of our prerogative, but also like when you're in shit, like no one's gonna actually like post here's the ways that I fuck shit up, in public. Techniques again, like as Austin calls it, the secret sauce must be kept secret by nature. But it is important, I think, for our audience to have some way of navigating these tensions when they occur. And remember that if you're in the public eye, it's gonna occur one day. But my recommendation, which has been recommendation of every mentor I've ever had in any system, which is don't fucking worry about it. Like when someone throws, who gives a shit who is doing it? All you got to do is it taken care of, because the more time you spend like throwing an oracle, just like, is it this person, is it this person, is this person, all it does is drag you into the insanity and the myopia of like, I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, and now I'm paranoid of every one of my friends or non-friends or acquaintances or people that smiled at me the wrong way once because they were thinking about something else and I took it personally. Like putting yourself in that mindset is possibly the best curse that you could put on yourself. Like my approach is, I imagine that what am I doing to feed the demon or the enemy spirits of my enemies? Like, what am I doing to play into their hands? Like, if I was cursing me, what would I want me to do to like negate my ability to protect myself? And it's like, well, one, assuming it's my friends or being paranoid is one of them. Two, not asking for help or not going to my spirits or my mentors or my friends for help is another. And three, freaking out about it and completely spiraling as opposed to being calm and collected and doing cleansings, doing protection, doing some like more powerful decoy work, doing some like targeted kind of assassination style, like, oh, this is a spirit that's preying on me, let's fight it. Let's actually trap it, let's contain it in like a witch bottle, let's do like we have an episode on witch bottles in episode 31, like boiling the witch's urine, that kind of thing, like making, like causing harm to the sender or disabling their abilities, like we mentioned before, like binding them, and not just like the craft way, but like fully like actually like making a puppet out of like licorice and calamus and personal concerns, and then like taking a braided rope, let's say take 3 different ropes that you braid into 3 different sections until you have like kind of like a Saturnian rope or like or something like that, and then you cover it in oils that are meant to disable the person, that are meant to like strain their power, like vampirize it or make it like completely inert, or just harm them in general to prevent them from doing harm unto you. And then you like take that rope, tie 9 knots into it each time, disabling different parts of them, including different parts of their power, like disabling the tongue, disabling the body, that kind of thing, disabling the eye from being sent, disabling the spirits, the ancestors, and so on and so forth, and then you use that rope to crack the limbs of the doll, like just break the licorice inside by tying the tightest knots possible and like whipping it around, beating with a belt, whatever you gotta do, like some like real like actual like I'm straight up fighting you now. Whatever you gotta do, and then being like, cool, that's done. What do you and washing off with your Saratoga water and your banana peel.
Very important.
Very important. Yeah. We'll taking off the mouth tape and the whatever it was,
unironically a good way to cool off, but
yeah,
that will save the kernel of truth.
Yes.
The kernel of wisdom in 6 hours of dilly-dallying.
Yeah, exactly. 4 minutes of diving into the pool. Yeah. You get to the point where you're like, okay, like I am now whatever you've done, I'm at peace with it. My divination has cleared it. I'm comfortable with the consequences of where this could go awry, and I've returned to a place of power. And if that's apply that to a system, apply it to like a political system, and being like that just boils down to good organizing, good actually being there for your friends, making sure they have resources available, making sure that you have resources, making sure you have backups, and making sure that if something's up, that again, like what would you want done to you if you were the one cursing you? Like if like being very logical for a second, like what is the best way to fuck me up? What are my faults? What are my anxieties? What are parts of me that are like most easy to fuck up? Like, do I have a dependency? Do I have an addiction? Am I prone to like indulging in a drug or alcohol when I'm weak, and emotionally vulnerable? Am I somebody who gossips? Am I somebody who overshares and tells people too much information? Like, are those places of vulnerability that you could apply pressure to, and then catching yourself when you get there and be like, cool, what are my proper like coping habits now? Like, how do I make this better so that I can be cooler and I can respond with a more cooler approach, even if that approach is violent and intense. Like, nevertheless, that it comes from a place of agency, a reclaimed agency as opposed to lost agency, because everything feels like you're in the right when you're angry. You're focused, what you're angry about, and you feel entitled to that anger. But what happens when the anger cools and now you have to take action?
That's the big part of it, right? Is like after the action, what is the pro social thing to do? Like, once you've let out the system, how do you return to yourself and being nourished by all those things that constitute you and also surround you, especially the people. Because like when in the anger and when everything's right and everything's righteous, it's like, okay, cool, now let me come back to everything.
We talk about the community aspect of it, and that is very important because that also acts as the check of like, hey, you're not okay, or hey, you need to reel this in. Hey, this is turning into, even to the point where it can turn into some sort of spirit obsession, where it's like, ooh, you're doing a little too much, right? That balance can be good, but when everything is like flushed and cleared out, and it's like, okay, you've gotten everything out of your cloaca, then
when you're creative with your cloaca.
when you're right.
No, it's me that.
No,
not the Jeff Goldblum Gulen cloaca.
Oh God,
Pick
no.
your nails and shit. But I think it can be really good too to have, at least this is my thought process, is be around friends, be around people you love and people you care about. Have a little party for your spirits, even if it isn't outwardly facing like that. You can get friends and people together, and it sounds very like let's have a frivolous party, but I genuinely think like lighting spirits up, and with a candle with gentle light, and putting small shots of alcohol and things like that around the patron saints of your home or your spirits who have helped you in this endeavor, to be like, okay, like we've done the war, much like your brilliant soldier analogy, Svinga, but having everybody revel in that R&R and be like, let's actually take a back seat and have a moment where we can breathe, and having other people over who are your friends or your family to partake in that can be really beneficial, in my opinion. Having good food, um, doing even workings to help supplement some of that, all the shit that you've just done, right? Where you didn't pull any punches, and being able to be like, okay, now let's all, make a nice champagne bath, for, with your, cinnamon and your champagne and your roses and your, sweetening and attracting spices and herbs to draw in money and good luck and health and vitality and all those things to cool everything down and then supplement that goodness in, aside from your banana peel and your expensive overpriced water.
Listen, we've been workshopping the Saratoga water, like 6 hours of dilly-dallying, fuck off, like bath.
I'm the worst part is like living in where I'm living now, there are Saratoga bottles readily available at every convenience store. So a rapidly aggregating Saratoga bottle tree outside is evidence of my
but you know what?
Honestly,
though, like the blue bottle would be
I was gonna
so
say
good for like an evil eye.
I was just
That's
about
what I've
to
been
say
doing.
that's so funny. I'm like, oh yeah, and now you have a surplus of spirit bottles that you can hang in trees and put little mirrors and beads in and be like, okay, come here.
Yeah, with like tangled thread, with knots, like beans or rice they have to count if they spill it. Yeah, classic little witch bottle shit. Some bent pins.
I will show you something when we're done recording.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm at Keith's house. We're sharing a microphone right now, and like literally the first thing I saw when I opened his fridge was the Saratoga bottle that was obviously there to prank me with. My God. Well, thank you so much, Austin. This was a real pleasure. I think that cooler heads have indeed prevailed from where the episode was originally going to go when we talked about it, and I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I will not be silenced even by laryngitis. I hope that, it's interesting that this is the place where I wanted to go with it. Especially because I'm, like I've said, I'm not the quickest person to pull out the Gulen nails. But I think it's a really important toolkit. I think it's a sexy toolkit that gets very easily fetishized, and it's not always. I wish that weren't the case, and yet at the same time I also understand reality and witches and occultists and myself included. It can be very sexy stuff. It can be really intense work. I think it can also, let me not say it can be fun. Maybe if I'm talking about maybe not fetishizing it so much, it can be fun. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna like laugh and be like, it's not like this isn't the part of the Botanica that sells out first. Like there's love and there's cursing, right? Like, and you ask any Botanic owner what sells out first, they say those two things, and a lot of overlap between them. But like really, like that's where the money is, and that's certainly where like, and I appreciate I don't know how you guys approach it, but like Key, you've mentioned that like if you have to resort to left-handed work, as it were, or prolific work, like you have to do such an extensive intake with a client and like triple check it so many times to be like, that's the fact that you do that is honorable, but a lot of like workers in traditional societies are just kind of like, just give me the money and I'll do it, because that's their income, and like they can't really afford to turn it down.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's a situation in which like there's layers to all this, like even culturally speaking, like the fact that like we can talk about it this way is also a testament to our society and where we live. Whereas like I know in the village that all of my family is from, like the main workers there, like they'll take on a curse, like, and just be like, cool, is the money in the account, or like is it in my hands, and I'll do it. And in the end, like that is the part of magic that people want to learn most besides love, is like, because it's a way to be like, what is the trinity of hoodoo? Like get laid, get paid, get even. Like getting even is really about like making sure that like no one can fuck with you, even if you're a marginalized person. Key's rant about why gay people should have guns always.
Yes, but
Yeah. 100%. And you should be enchanting those guns and those bullets, you know. Your next level Gulen nails are actually, it's a 22 250, but that's neither or just
Thank
a 9mm, right? Gets canceled on your show again.
Again, every time you're on here, you get canceled.
Fuck it, 338. Pull out the good shit.
Right.
But hey, really good Norwegian grimoires out there for enchanting your guns. Actually, really good American grimoires out there too.
Out there?
Much as you know, like good old long lost friend and all et al. Much like putting a lot of ice in your plastic cup at the restaurant.
Reverend Hyatt, let's see that chapter on fire.
Yeah, actually, yeah, Hyatt has so much good stuff. All the good like folklore of Adams County, Illinois, all the good shit. But really, it's just a matter of keeping your shit on lock and making sure that like quick aside because you guys reminded me of it. I love the idea of like firing bullets at particular planetary hours during elections and then using that to smelt things.
It's some good shit.
Like shoot the moon and become a witch.
Right.
Exactly. Take that cartridge casing and go over to that river and scoop up a little water in that moon's reflection and take a little sippy sip after the fact and see what's good.
Exactly.
Baby.
Yeah, baby.
As this plate is free of grease, so is my heart free of Christian love. And may my evil heart and wicked ways never cease. Amen.
Let this bacon grease on my counter be the ointment that takes me to the Sabbath.
These are some fire Ethel Cain lyrics you guys are drawing.
I'm starting. Would anyone not believe me if I told you that I have infused bacon grease with yep. I definitely have made bacon grease flying ointment before, for poisonal use.
Pork fat, you know.
Right, and it smells so good.
You just get an added, you know, delicious morning meal before your flight later.
Well, it's like you cover yourself
like
in a little bit. Right. You cover yourself in a little bit of bacon grease, and that's for the devil.
The Datura spirit walking up to you being like, how's it going? You're in first class. Would you like a little something to drink? And it's just like a boiling like concoction of like
early 2000s like Sabrina Spellman style where it's like the dry ice is like foaming out of the cup.
Yeah. When you go into like a witch themed bar and like it's just like here's a cauldron mug and a dry ice potion.
Which is crazy to me because I'm like, where are you all getting the money? What is your fucking nitrogen budget in this establishment?
In this establishment,
that's crazy. But then again, every like witchcraft cocktail bar I've ever been to, the drinks are like
every time
$60 at
minimum. Yeah, I mean like not never mind. I was gonna make a joke about the prices of Limpias these days.
Sorry. It's really gone up.
Oh no.
Fucking hell, man. I'm like, why do I gotta go to the store and get a dozen eggs for $7?
Right. Hot commodities in this economy.
No.
You have hot spirits, wage a war against the fucking price of eggs.
Yeah.
Right. Actually,
did you remember to say thank you for the black pole egg that I did you remember to say thank you, Mr. Zelensky?
Mr. Vance.
You killed the Pope. All right. Listen up, liberals.
Middle text.
Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Austin, thank you so much. This was a blast. As always, you're always welcome on. Pick a topic. You know, before or after a personal malady occurs to get you hot and or cold. And then we'll film at any time.
Thank you everybody for having me. It's always a pleasure. I enjoy coming on here and having a laugh. As you know, we take ourselves not too seriously, but our work very seriously. So
that is a slogan, indeed.
Yeah. And I think that it's really fun to always be here. So thank you, Svinga. Thank you, Key. Thank you, Salt.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you for showing up, man.
So that's banexbramble.com, Instagram.com/banexbramble, and the Southern Bramble podcast. Now, Akashic record wise, Austin, yours is great.
Thank you. Oh, did you want me to say it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
You remember to say thank you today. You're taking Mr. Mance's advice. Yes.
Oh my god, I'm totally gonna put that as the ending gag.
I'd like to keep it on, please. My Akashic record is Hate Rock. That's HTRK's Eat Your Heart.
Amazing. Mine is Mike Snow's My Trigger. One, because it's the whole like cute fucking music video, but also just because of the lyrics. And I'm also throwing in Dochi's Catfish.
A classic,
Mhm.
modern classic.
Mhm.
And of course, because it's me, my Akashic record for today is Ausrotten's Absent Minded, because fuck the Aryan nations, and a good form of vengeance magic is exactly what happened to their compound.
Very true.
If you want some light reading.
Yeah. Ikea, I believe you have a playlist to plug as well that you made.
That I do. I'll be leaking one of the personal angry political playlists as part of this for the patrons over in the Discord. So if you want some of that fun stuff, come on by.
Indeed. And I don't think it's going to shock anybody that the license set apart is literally the Curse of the Nails from the Grammarian Verum. It's the Guland ritual. So, Key, I'll have you not in that voice.
I was about to do
No,
that.
no. Absolutely not.
We should get Emphysema to do it.
Huh? Oh my god.
Oh no, baby, that won't work too well.
Oh Lord.
Well, normally we have Key read these, but in this case, it actually goes back and forth between, it's like a full spell. It's not just licensed apart. So, Salt, maybe you can read the actual instructions and Key can read the verbal enchantments.
The Curse of the Nails. Go to a cemetery, remove nails from an old coffin, saying,
Nails, I take you, so that you may serve to turn aside and cause evil to all person whom I will. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
when you wish to use it, you must look for a footprint of your foe and make the three figures of Gulan, Surgat, and Morel. Fix the nail in the middle, saying,
Pater Noster, Gies Natalis, Sanctificator, Nomen Tuum, Aviant Regnum Tuum, Fiat, Voluntas Tua, Sicut in Celo et in Terra.
Hit the nail with a stone, saying,
Cause evil to him until I remove thee.
and recover the place with a little dust, and remember it well, because one cannot remove the evil which it causes but by removing the nail and saying,
I remove thee, so that the evil which thou hast caused to name shall cease. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Then take the nail out and efface the characters, not with the same hand as you make them, but with the other. Thus it will be without danger.
Oh, what's the B? Beating your ass key? Like, what's the
Vatican key.
Vatican? No,
Vatican.
Batiman.
No.
Boom clot.
Bumbleclot.
Bumbleclot. Blood clot. Rust clot.
Pussy clot.